Okay, so we're going to wind down and talk about the eternal order now. We've talked about the 75-day interval, the millennium, the aftermath age. Now we got the eternal order. Now Dr. Arnold Fruchtenbaum says, while the Messianic kingdom is the high point of Old Testament prophecy, the eternal order is the high point of New Testament prophecy. Let's talk about a few of the highlights in the eternal order, like we talked about a few of the highlights in the millennium. In the eternal order, there will be a new heaven and a new earth. There will be a new holy city called New Jerusalem. God the Father will dwell amongst his people. He will actually physically dwell amongst his people because all the sin has been done away with and cast into the lake of fire. So he can actually put his presence forward in the eternal order, in the new heaven and the new earth. There will be no more curse, and the things that result from the curse, which would be death, crying, or pain, no more curse of sin. All things will be made new. God's people will be treated as sons and become heirs to all things. There will be no fifth Jewish temple, for God and the Lamb are its temple. There will be a crystal pure river of life. There will be a healing tree of life in the eternal order. John says, I saw a new holy city, a new Jerusalem coming down out of the heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. The city is laid out as a square, and its length is as great as its width. And he measured the city with a rod, and it came to about 1,500 miles. Its length, its width, and height are all equal. Now, folks, we're talking about a new Jerusalem coming out of heaven. Nobody builds, everyone on earth builds from ground up. This is built from up, and it's coming down, top down. And it's huge. It's huge. Here's a quote from Warren Wiersbe about the size of this and the shape of this New Jerusalem. The dimensions and descriptions of the city stagger our imagination. 4 square means equal on all sides, which may mean the city is a perfect cube, a holy of holies, radiant with the presence of God, or it could be a pyramid. In either case, the city measures about 1,500 miles each way, or 2/3 the size of the United States. That's the New Jerusalem, folks. Let's talk about the 3 Jerusalems. This is the third one. Let's talk about the first one that's existing right now as we tape this. There's a present Jerusalem, but that Jerusalem is going to be done away with. It's going to go away when the planet is like an old garment. That Jerusalem is about to experience a cup of trembling to the surrounding Arab nations in Zechariah 12. It's going to be a burdensome stone to the international community. It already is. It's going to be trodden over for 3.5 years of the tribulation by the Gentiles, probably the harlot world religion. That's in Revelation 11, verse 2. It's going to be captured by the Antichrist and fall, and his armies in the tribulation. It's going to be split in two by an enormous earthquake in Zechariah 14:4, and destroyed when this earth vanishes away like the smoke of an old garment, in Isaiah 51:6. So the Jerusalem you see today is going to be done away with and replaced with the millennial Jerusalem, the second Jerusalem, which ultimately, after the 1,000 years, the sin nature will be so bad, Satan will be released. It'll be surrounded by Satan, the beloved city, and the Magog invaders in the aftermath age, and it will be destroyed when the earth flees away at the white throne judgment. That's the second Jerusalem. The third Jerusalem, the New Jerusalem, it's going to last forever. Let's talk a little bit about that New Jerusalem. It's going to last forever, folks. If you're a believer, you're going to be there. It's going to be situated on a high mountain. It's going to be constructed of pure gold, which includes a main street of gold. It'll be filled with the glory of God. It'll be illuminated by God in Jesus Christ. It'll have a massively high wall made of jasper stone. There'll be 12 pearl gates named for the 12 tribes, and 12 foundations of precious gemstones named after the apostles. God spares no expense for this New Jerusalem. He digs deep into his treasure chest of gems and minerals to make the best city imaginable. Does that city already exist right now? Or is that in the making? And there's some things to think about this now, because it may already exist right now. John said, I saw the holy city. He didn't see the blueprints of the holy city. He saw the holy city, New Jerusalem. This was written about 2,000 years ago. Coming down out of the heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Some people believe this is the city that Abraham longed for. Hebrews 11 says, by faith he, Abraham, dwelt in the land of promise as in a foreign country, dwelling in tents with Isaac and Jacob and heirs with him of the same promise. For he waited for the city which has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. Of course, God builds and makes the New Jerusalem. And at the time Abraham's longing for this, it's a city that has foundations. It looks like the city already had foundation 4,000 years ago. Perhaps that's what's being said there. There's an interesting quote here about this, the existence of this New Jerusalem in the millennial kingdom, and perhaps even existing presently. John Woolward writes about this in the Bible Knowledge Commentary of the New Testament. Many expositors regard the promise of Christ in John 14:2, that I am going there to prepare a place for you, as referring to this city, the New Jerusalem. The suggestion has been made that if the New Jerusalem is in existence during the millennial reign of Christ, it may have been suspended in the heavens as a dwelling place for the resurrected and translated saints, who nevertheless would have immediate access to earth to carry on their functions of the ruling with Christ. J. Dwight Pentecost, for instance, quotes R.C. Jennings and William Kelly and Walter Scott as supporting this concept of the New Jerusalem as a satellite city during the millennium. So they believe, they're quoting that perhaps it'll be a satellite city in existence, that saints will be going back and forth, to and fro. Is it a place prepared for, he's talking about, which is in John 14, we're going to look at that in a minute. Or is it even in existence presently as a satellite city? The thought might be it's at least a satellite city in the millennial kingdom. Let's look at what he says when he says, I go to prepare a place for you. Let's look at John 14, 1 through 4. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God. Believe also in me. My Father's house are many mansions. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again to receive you to myself. And where I am, there you may be also. And where I go, you know, and the way you know. He mentions you or your 9 times. He's preparing a place in his Father's house for you. If you believe in Jesus Christ, these promises are for you. Let not your heart be troubled. He's not just speaking to his disciples, he's speaking to you. 9 times, it's very personal. He's going to prepare a place. Where is this place? In his Father's house. I quote this in the Millennium Prophecies book. The mansions being prepared for you as a believer are in my Father's house, which places their location where Jehovah dwells. According to Revelation 21:2 and 22 verses 3 and 22 and 23, God the Father will dwell in the eternal order among his people in the golden city of the New Jerusalem. Perhaps this is the zip code that Jesus Christ is presently preparing a place for you. Have you accepted Jesus Christ? If you are, he's preparing a place for you, and perhaps it's in the New Jerusalem, which may be a satellite city made of gold that already exists today. Matter of fact, in the twinkling of an eye, when Jesus Christ comes to catch up his bride in the rapture, it could be that you're here today and in the New Jerusalem tomorrow. God bless you.